that owners believed were safely tucked back in the forest that lines the river were crushed by the walls of water that hit with almost no warning.
1960, dawn of a dramatic decade. The American presidential campaign pits the privileged son of one of America's wealthiest families against the vice president of the United States, who serves in the shadow of World War II hero and two-term president Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Democratic nominee is John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The Republican nominee is Richard Milhouse Nixon, both men destined to leave an indelible mark on history. The candidates agree to an unprecedented series of 4 live televised debates. Nixon hopes to erase his image as an unpleasant, negative campaigner. Kennedy, too, seeks to alter his image, that of a rich young man without the maturity or experience to lead the nation through the Cold War. In one of the closest presidential elections ever, many say it is the new mass medium, television, that makes the difference. This is the story of the great debates, of the historic challenge never before possible of 2 candidates face-to-face live on nationwide television. Through it all, ABC News was there. Watch now the original ABC News broadcasts of a great TV news story, The Great Debates. John F. Kennedy versus Richard M. Nixon.
I would say that the people now have the opportunity to evaluate his as against mine, and I think both he and I are going to abide by whatever the people decide.
Senator Kennedy?
Well, I'll just say that the question is of experience, and the question also is what our judgment is of the future, and what our goals are for the United States, and what ability we have to implement those goals. Abraham Lincoln came to the presidency in 1860 after a rather little-known session in the House of Representatives, and after being defeated for the Senate in 58 and was a distinguished president. There is no certain road to the presidency. There are no guarantees that if you take one road or another that you will be a successful president. I have been in the Congress for 14 years. I have voted in the last 8 years, and the vice president was presiding over the Senate and meeting his other responsibilities. I have met decisions over 800 times on matters which affect not only the domestic security of the United States, but as a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The question really is, which candidate and which party can meet the problems that the United States is going to face in the 60s?
It is a dream as old as humanity, leaving the Earth behind, soaring into space, walking on the moon. In the 1960s, America did it. It was man's greatest adventure. 2 great superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a Cold War. Both nations believed that whoever controlled the heavens would control life on Earth. America won the race for the moon. This is the story of America's race for space, from the shock of Sputnik to John Glenn's flight into Earth orbit, from America's first walk in space to Neil Armstrong's first step on the surface of the moon. Through it all, ABC News was there. Watch now the original ABC News broadcast of a great TV news story, Racing for the Moon, America's glory days in space.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you... For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is.
The scourge of terrorism, a savage war, conceived in shadows, played out for all the world to see. Secret armies paralyze our governments and exploit our fears, exacting a brutal toll. It is an ever-present threat. Innocent men and women drawn into an unfamiliar world of political violence, mortal danger. even death. In June of 1985, the threat of terror once again became reality. A commercial airliner hijacked on a routine flight from Athens to Rome. What followed was an odyssey of horror and tragedy, of hope and despair, of frustration and great courage. Here, under unexpected and terrifying circumstances, the mettle of men was tested. Some proved cruel and cowardly. Some proved heroic and noble. This is the story of the hijack of TWA Flight 847. It was snatched from its course and its passengers held hostage while the world stood helplessly by. Through it all, ABC News was there. Watch now the original ABC News broadcasts of a great TV news story. 17 Days of Terror, the hijack of TWA Flight 847.
Do you have any messages for your families?
Yes, I would like for my wife and my family and all of my friends back in Missouri to know that the Lord has taken very good care of us so far, and He's seen us through some very trying times, and He'll see us through to the end.
Captain, many people in America are calling for some kind of rescue operation or some kind of retaliation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that we'd all be dead men if they did, because we're continually surrounded by many, many guards.
Do you have any thoughts on whether or not the United States should ask Israel to release the people it's holding in Israel?
No, I don't comment.
November 1979. Fanatical supporters of Iran's new leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and take everyone they find there hostage. American citizens, soldiers, and diplomats, bound, blindfolded, paraded before the world. Images of humiliation and helplessness sear their way into the hearts and minds of America. The greatest power on earth, unable to deal effectively with a nation that sometimes seems possessed by madness. This is the story of 444 days that changed the course of history. A time of outrage and heartbreak, of broken promises and dashed hopes, of a king without a country, and a president held powerless in the fierce grip of Islamic fundamentalism. It was a time when heroes died in a tragically failed rescue mission. And finally, it was time for freedom. At the moment, America turned to a new leader. Through it all, ABC News was there. Watch now the original ABC News broadcasts of a great TV news story. America held hostage. The Iran crisis.
We tried, we failed, and we have paid a price. The bodies of 8 young Americans still lie in the Iranian desert, victims of the tragic end to a daring and dangerous attempt to rescue the hostages in Tehran. There, the embassy gates are still locked. The terrorists have strengthened their guard, and the hostages remain in captivity. So far as is known, they are safe. No action has been taken against them because their country tried to save them.